Welcome. You didn't get the title of tonight's workshop, or you may not have come. It's Winning at Parenting Without Beating Your Kids. There is an alternative title that I usually use. It's Disciplined Kids Are Worth It. Both are the same, because winning at parenting without beating your kids, I'm not talking about physical abuse only. I'm also talking about the power struggles we get into with our children and we lose. I learned a long time ago that you can't control anyone who's bigger than you or has a bigger mouth. And that quite literally can occur at any age. Ask a mother of a 5-and-a-half-year-old and they'll tell you that. I've worked with kids for many years. I've worked with kids from kindergarten through high school, trainably handicapped through gifted, and just about every kind of kid in between. But my lectures changed dramatically after I had my own children. It's amazing the kind of credibility that they force on one's life. I have an 8-year-old daughter, Anna, a 6-year-old daughter, Maria, and a 5-year-old son, Joseph. And they have taught me a lot, and I'll share with you some of the things they've taught me. I've worked with severely troubled teenage boys, and they taught me an awful lot, besides how to duck. I've had my nose broken twice, and my ribs rearranged, compliments of those kids. And they did teach me how to duck, but they taught me a lot more, too, about consistency and structure and basic needs that children have. When I first started teaching, I learned that you couldn't control kids. I thought you had to. I thought that was our goal as an adult, was to control kids and help make them mind. I had a 5-and-a-half-year-old teach me differently. I had this little kid who wouldn't sit in his seat, so I tried all the be nice things. Jeffy, please sit. Jeffy, look how nicely Susie's sitting. Jeffy, I'll give you 5 stars if you sit. Jeffy, please, the principal's coming in, would you please sit? And nothing worked. So I tried the more direct approach, sit. And the kid said, make me 5-and-a-half. So I walked over to him, set him down, he leaped up. Walked back over to him, set him down, and sat on him. And I said, there, now you're sitting. And he said to me, ha, 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 as soon as you get up, I'm getting up too. And what he taught me was you can't make any kid do what they choose not to do. But what you can do is make it more comfortable for the kid to choose the appropriate activity and a whole lot less comfortable for the kid to choose the inappropriate. Allow them the choice. But more importantly than allowing them the choice, we must allow them to experience the consequences for the choices they made. Unless, of course, those consequences are life-threatening or morally threatening. I mean, you do have to intervene if it's life-threatening. You don't line all the toddlers up and say, now, if you run out in the street, you're going to get hit. Johnny, go show them. See, I told you what happened if you run out in the street. You know, you get in a lot of trouble if you do that, so you don't want to do that. But most consequences are not life-threatening or morally threatening. Painful, but not life-threatening or morally threatening. So tonight we're going to condense a 30-hour lecture into 90 minutes, so I'll talk real fast. But I'd like to discuss such things as the things that get in the way of helping our kids become responsible, caring, loving individuals, trying to have positive power in our homes as opposed to control, because you lose control if that's your goal and your method when your children are young. You lose it once they're bigger than you. I also want to talk to you about mealtime, chores, bedtime, a bit on sex education. We'll do that real fast because that's a whole lecture in itself. I want to talk to you about fighting and how to get your kid out of the local jail, because I think that's pretty critical. One never knows. You know, kids have what we call free will. And no matter what kind of parent you are, you can get that call in the middle of the night, just want to let you know, Mom, why I'm not coming home tonight. And so I think it's critical that all parents understand that there is a way to help your kid, and it's through discipline. The discipline I'm talking about is to discipline with authority, and that's to give life to learning. And that is our goal as parents, is to give life to learning. We do an interesting thing. We say we want kids to be responsible, caring, loving individuals, but from the time they're this big, we say to them, think for yourself, think for yourself. Would you listen to me? Think for yourself, think for yourself. Don't forget your coat and mittens, it's cold outside. Think for yourself, think for yourself. You have an exam, hon, you need to sit down and study for that right now. Think for yourself. How many times do I have to tell you to think for yourself? And kids spend the first 2 years of adult life trying to get their heads on straight, because what we have done is taught them what to think, not how to think. And it's critical that we teach our children how to think. In fact, there are 3 things we must give them to buffer them from sexual promiscuity, drug abuse, and suicide. Those are the big concerns in the teen years, but we buffer them from the time they're quite young. And the 3 things we need to give them, are 1, I like myself, 2, I can think for myself, and 3, there is no problem so great I can't solve it. Well, folks, they'll never learn those last 2, I can think for myself and there's no problem so great I can't solve it, if we don't give them an opportunity to solve some of their own problems. But let me show you how ingrained think for yourself, listen to me is. I'll bet some of you, now that you're an adult, the last time you went home to visit your own parents, you're walking out the door and your mother says, don't forget to bundle up. Or worse yet, you're walking out the door with your own children because now you're a responsible adult and your mother says, do you think you have the kid bundled enough? Think for yourself, listen to me. About all I can do in 90 minutes is irritate you. And that's exactly what I'd like to do, is irritate you. But I'd like to do it like an oyster does it. When it gets a grain of sand in its shell, it does one of two things. It makes a pearl or it dies. Now, hopefully you choose the former, but, the choice is yours. I get real irritated at parents that attend a lot of parent workshops, read every book they can get their hand on, and go back and change everything. And the kids say, what'd you go to this week? Because everything changes when you learn a new technique. I don't want you to do that either. But I would like you to irritate tonight about the things you do that get in the way of helping your kid become responsible for his or her own behavior. And think for yourself, listen to me, is one of the things that ought to irritate you. I don't know how many junior high parents have come to me and said, look at this kid. Would you look at him? He was such a good kid. He was so well behaved, so well groomed, so well mannered. Now look at him. And I look at the kid and I say, you know what? He has not changed. And they go, what? I say, he hasn't changed. From the time he was little, he did exactly what an outside voice told him to do. He dressed exactly like an outside voice told him to dress. He said the things an outside voice told him to say. And that voice was yours. He has not changed. He is still doing what an outside voice is telling him to do. The only difference is it isn't your voice anymore. It's his peer's voice. He has not learned how to think. So it is critical that we give our children, from the time they're very young, an opportunity to think for themselves. How do you do that? You need to give your kids responsibilities and decisions when they are quite young. I'd like you to sit down as parents and list the responsibilities and decisions that are yours and the ones that are your children's. We do an interesting thing here, too. Kindergarten parents have a list this long of things they'll let their kid do. Get the kid in junior high, and we reduce the list. When it ought to be increasing. Responsibilities and decisions should increase as a kid gets older, not decrease. Now, I let my children make lots of decisions. I don't let them make all of them. I do not say to the 5-year-old, do you want to go to bed or not? That isn't a decision he's going to make at our house. But I do say, do you want to go to bed now with your red pajamas or now with your blue pajamas? That is a decision the kid can make. I also say to him, Joey, here's 3 outfits, pick one. I say to the 6-year-old, because we increase it as they get older, Maria, here's your school clothes, here's your play clothes. Pick something from your school clothes. And wouldn't you know it, one day, not long ago, she comes down from the upstairs with the layered look. All school clothes, definitely layered. I mean, it's gymnastics day, so she had green tights on and green leotards, red knickers, white socks that went halfway between the knicker line and the ankle, and a red, green, yellow, and blue shirt. The greens didn't match, and it was half sleeve so that the leotard stuck out and the greens really clashed. Now, I mean, I know a lot of parents who would say, hon, go pick out an outfit. You can't wear that. You know, it is not life-threatening to wear the layered look to school. Painful for mother, but not life-threatening to kid. It's like kids with shoes on the wrong feet. If they hurt, they'd move them. But we worry. I've yet to see a senior with shoes on the wrong feet. But we worry about those little kids. They learn. Give them an opportunity. I say to the 8-year-old, hey, go pick out an outfit. She's been picking since she was 2.5. But what we tend to do in junior high is we start over. Here's 3 outfits, pick one. We're sure they can't think for themselves at that age. And we're making a mistake. We need to increase it so by the time they are seniors, they are making most decisions in their life and handling most of the responsibilities for their own life. They're going to need it. They're going to walk out the door at 18. And we have to be building for that from the time they're quite young. So list the responsibilities and decisions. Excellent responsibilities are chores. How many of you got paid for doing the dinner dishes tonight? Nobody? Then why would you pay a kid? Oh, because it's the real world. It's not real world. You can get paid. I do not bribe my children to do chores. Every person in our family is an important, responsible member of that family. And chores are one way of letting a kid know they are very important in your family. Say, when do we start? At 2 years old, we gift our kids on their birthday with a comforter. They get to make their own bed. At 3, they get to unload the dishwasher. At 4, they get to set the table. At 5, they get to use a real vacuum cleaner. At 6, they realize there's a big difference between work and play, but it's too late. They're already hooked into the routine. And you say, wait a minute, my kid's 8 now, what am I going to do? It's never too late. But your children ought to feel that they are important, responsible members of your family. You say, well, what am I going to give them for doing it? Nothing. Do they get an allowance? Yes. But the allowance has nothing to do with chores. That's called bribery. And we're not out to bribe our children. My kids get an allowance to learn how to handle money. When I was working with severely disturbed kids, one of the parents said, hey, lady, if I don't pay that kid, he'll never work. And I said, he has manipulated you then. And a week later, she came back and she said, I understand. I asked the kid to dump the trash, and he said, I don't want to. And she said, but you get a quarter. He says, I got enough money to go to the movies. No, we don't want to get into that. We give them money to learn how to handle money. They are given chores to become responsible, important members of the family. Now, If they need to get paid for doing chores, hire them out to the neighbor to do their dishes. And then bring a neighbor kid in to clean your playroom. They do an excellent job when you swap, by the way. But they can get money for that kind of thing. Or for a major windstorm comes through and you need to all go out and pitch in, you might give them a little extra for that. But not for doing your usual chores. You don't get paid, they don't get paid. Our home is a place we work together. How do you get them to do the chores? Well, let me show you a typical routine at home. Let's see, your name?
Bob.
Bob. Bob's my son. He's 3 rooms away watching TV. I need him to dump the trash. Typical scene. We yell 3 rooms away, Bob, dump the trash. Nicely the first time, right? No response. Then we raise our voice, but not to the danger zone. Every kid knows every parent and teacher's danger zone, and they respond accordingly. It's like the kindergarten kid. The teacher said, how come I had to tell you 5 times to do that? And the kid looked up and he said, well, when my mother means it, she says it 5 times. Think about it. But we yell, Bob, dump the trash. No response. Finally, we're bordering on a coronary. We are so irritated at that kid. We rip on in there. Bob, you irresponsible kid, get your eyes off that TV, young man. How many times do I have to tell you to dump that trash? Now, I'm not telling you one more time. You get out there and dump it right now. And by the way, you left your clothes over there. And I told you if you didn't put them in the laundry, they would never get washed. And you left the peanut butter and gel. I don't know what I'm going to do with you. And the kid looks up and goes, huh? You know, they have selective hearing. They hear what they want to hear. It's amazing. And you're bordering on a coronary. That is not how you get your kid to dump the trash. First of all, your children need a smile, a hug, and humor from you every single day. Not yelled at. A smile, a hug, and humor. You walk up to the kid. You're not upset. You haven't told him but once. You're walking up to him. You're quiet. And you say, Bob, I need you to dump the trash before your next meal. Now, what do I need?
You need me to dump the trash.
When do I need it by?
Before we eat.
You got it before you eat.
Before I eat.
You got it, kid. Good luck. Now, what I said wasn't important, but what the kid said was, I need to dump the trash before I eat. He understands, but I know there are a few of you out here that would own that kid's problem all afternoon. You would walk around and say, Bob, don't forget to dump the trash. Bob, isn't there something you're supposed to be doing before dinner? Bob, you won't get to eat if you don't dump the trash. Then we ask a dumb question. Trash is sitting right in front of us, and we say, Bob, have you dumped the trash yet? Sound familiar, folks? Like I said, we're here to irritate a little bit tonight. Yeah. Let the kid own the problem. Do not say another word. Let the kid show up for dinner with no place set. You won't have to say a word. Kids have fantastic memories when they need them. He walks up to the table and says, oh, the trash. Now, you say, wait a minute, I don't want to punish the kid. I'm not punishing him. I didn't say he couldn't eat. I said he could eat as soon as he gets the trash dumped. And you say, but I don't like to attach food to chores. And I ask you, why do you eat? And the answer to that is you eat to nourish a working body. If it hasn't worked yet, it isn't ready to be nourished. It's very real world. Now, wait a minute. How many of you are raising teenagers at this point? Teenagers? Anybody got teenagers here? All right. It doesn't work. They don't show up for dinner. Let me show you. A good friend of mine, Foster Klein, he's a clinical psychiatrist that I work with, taught me another way. You go up to the kid, and you say to your teenager, Bob, I need you to dump the trash before the end of the day. Now, what do I need?
Huh?
I need you to dump the trash before the end of the day. Now, what do I need?
You need me to dump the trash before I go to bed, I guess.
No, before the end of the day.
When's that?
Midnight. When do you need to dump the trash?
Oh, before midnight.
You got it, kid. Good luck. Let the kid go to bed. 11:30. Bob, son, let's go. Trash isn't dumped yet. Day's almost over. Come on, kid. You do that twice, and I promise you your teenager won't even think about going to bed before his or her chores are done. It is not the severity of a consequence that has its impact. It's the certainty of it. The fact the kid knows, if I go to bed before I dump the trash, Mom or Dad's going to wake me up. You must say what you mean what you say, do what you said you were going to do. The two things my severely troubled boys lacked when they came to our program out of an institution were not love. They lacked consistency and structure. Somebody who said what they meant what they said, did what they said they were going to do, and provided a basic backbone for them. Now let's look at a backbone for a moment. There are 3 kinds of models you can have for your home scene. The brick wall model, the jellyfish model, and the backbone model. When I first started teaching, I used the brick wall model. I used to roll out the litany for the kids. Thou shalt not, don't you dare, you better not. No kicking, biting, pinching, poking, shoving, pulling chairs over, chewing gum, the whole 9 yards, I thought, till a 9th grader spit in another kid's face and said, but it's not on your list. So I changed my rules. And I don't care if I'm teaching kindergarten kids, junior high kids, or college students. I have the same 4 rules that form a backbone. In your home, you must have some basic rules that form a backbone, too. But we'll look at that in just a minute. Let's look at the jellyfish model. A lot of homes and schools went to the jellyfish model in the 70s. Kids, we have 2 rules in this home. Be kind and thoughtful. Blah, blah, blah. Kids know nothing else except they're supposed to be kind and thoughtful. Kids need to know more. They need to know their limits. They need to know what will happen if. They need a backbone. But look at a backbone. It gives you flexibility that you cannot get from a brick wall. But it also allows for creative, constructive, and responsible movement that you cannot get from a jellyfish model. We need to give creative and constructive, responsible activities to our children. We need a backbone for them. Let's look at it in terms of allowance. Brick wall family says to the kids, here's $1. You want $1? For your allowance. That's how much you get. You must spend this much for church. You must spend this much for savings, and you must buy these things with the rest of your allowance. Da-da, 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 da-da. I mean, the kid never learns how to think. They learn what to think, but not how to think. And it's critical that we teach our kids how to think. What a bummer, poor kid. You're not impressed. We teach our kids how to think. A brick wall family that says you have $1 and this is what you can spend it on. You must save so much, you must put so much in a church collection or charity, and you can buy these things with it. Do not teach kids how to think. The jellyfish family says, here's $1, spend what you'd like, and do what you'd like with it. The problem with jellyfish families, they get real brick wall when a kid makes a mistake and buys something dumb. And they say, but you shouldn't have. Or they mini lecture a kid. You know what a mini lecture is. Mini lectures are information the kid already had. I'd like you to irritate any time you mini lecture your kid. Well, if you hadn't have bought that expensive of a shirt, you could have bought 3 others. But it's like saying to your kid, if you hadn't hit your brother, you wouldn't be up in your room. If you'd eaten everything on your plate, you wouldn't be hungry now. You could have had dessert. If you had studied for the exam, you wouldn't have failed it. If you'd have turned your term paper in on time, you'd have received a higher grade. But it's like my husband saying to me, if you hadn't put the car in reverse, Barb, we'd have 2 cars. You know, I don't need that kind of information, nor does your kid need that kind of information. If you hadn't spent all your money on this, you'd have money for that. Irritate the next time you go to mini lecture your child. But a backbone family says, kid, here's $1. You may put some in the church collection or charity. You may save some. And they must do those 2, but you don't give them the amount they need to do. And you may use the rest of your money on something that's not life-threatening or morally threatening. And by the way, at our house, sugar is life-threatening. It rots your teeth and you can't eat and you die. So they can't buy sugar stuff with their allowance. But pretty much they can buy what they like. Take a junior high kid. A backbone family, the girl's been saving her money up, and she sees a beautiful shirt with an alligator on it. Gotta have that alligator shirt. Now, you as a mother or father could say, my goodness, she could buy 4 shirts if she didn't buy that alligator shirt. Why don't we just cut one out and put a little bit of Velcro on it, and she can staple it on all her different shirts, you know? No, you let your kid buy the alligator shirt. It's not life-threatening or morally threatening. 3 weeks later, she says, oh, Mom, I'd love to have a new blouse, but you don't have any money. Do not mini lecture and say, if you hadn't bought the alligator shirt, you could do it. She knows that. She's going to learn it if she doesn't know it. You say, that's a bummer. I'll bet you can handle that. And next time, she won't spend so much on her shirt. She will have grown. She will have learned. We teach our kids how to think that way, not what to think. How much allowance did you give your kid? It's up to you. You have to answer certain questions. How much can we afford? How much do we want to give them? How much can they handle? And what do they need to spend it on? And then give it with a backbone, not a brick wall or a jellyfish model, but a little bit of structure there. They need to learn to save. They need to learn to give. And they need to learn to spend their money. So you have 3 frameworks there that the kid can work in, but he can move in and out of that with it. Okay, let's go back to chores for a moment. You need to have consequences for getting chores done. You're not bribing them. You're not paying them for them. But you need to have consequences that are logical, realistic, and palatable to you. Not necessarily to the kid. But I marvel that any parent would ground a teenager for a month. I mean, I'm not going to ground any teenager for a month. I don't want him around that long. It's got to be logical, realistic, and palatable to you. That's not real palatable to me. Consequences. And you don't say, I'm going to tell your father, I'm going to tell your mother. None of those. Those are not real consequences. But let's say the kid's got to make his bed. We have a rule at our house that you need to get your bed made before you go to school. Now, I cannot say to the kid, if you don't get it made, you can't go to school. I can see a 5th grader who has an exam saying, ooh, I'm not going to make my bed. Then I won't have to go to school today. You also don't say, if you don't get your bed made, I'm going to spank you or nag you or whatever. Some people commit the 8th cardinal sin every single morning. It's called nagging. Hurry up, you're going to be late. Don't forget your gym uniform. Isn't it PE day? Don't forget your library book. Where's your homework? I mean, there was a beautiful cartoon in the paper. This mother is sitting at the breakfast table with her kid. Don't forget to tie your shoes. Remember this, remember that. Don't forget, remember, here's your stuff. And as the kid's walking out the door, mother's a wreck. And he said, why should I get hassled when I got somebody else to do it for me? No, you don't own the kid's problem. I'm going to nag. I'm not going to nag a kid about the bed either. But we say to our kids, if you get your bed made before you go to school, when you come home, you can go right out to play. If you don't get it made, you may go out to play as soon as you get it made. That way you don't nag the kid. Oh, but wait a minute. Some of you could not stand that. You must face that in yourself, and it's all right. You don't have to have the same consequences I have. I don't have answers. All I have is some options for you tonight. Some of you cannot stand an unmade bed. It calls to you all day, make me. And so you have to say to your kid, I can't stand an unmade bed, kid. It has got to be made this morning. If you make your bed before you go to school, that's one of your chores you may check off. If, however, you don't get it made because I can't stand an unmade bed, I will make it for you. But before you go to school, you must tell me which of my chores you will do for me. And all you have to do is remind them that it's mom's turn to do the dishes, and most of your children will get their beds made before school. But you say it, you mean it, you do it. Well, let's look at that consequence. One day, Ani didn't get her bed made. And she came ripping in after school all excited with one of her friends. She says, Mom, can I go play soccer? I said, yes, after you get your bed made. Kids are going to try 3 con games on you to get you to change your mind. They practice them in the womb. They know them long before you and I are ever aware that they're playing games with us. You already know what the cons are, you just don't know their names, and I'll give you the names today. Once you have names, it's like in Scripture, once you know the name of something, you have power with that. I used to teach my boys at the lab school. I'd say you might try a con 1, 2, or 3 on me, but I want you to know I don't give. And I didn't give. I mean, I was terribly consistent. And it paid off. Because new students would come in and go into a con 3, and the old students would say, hey, it's a con 3, don't bother, this lady doesn't give. And at home, my 8-year-old says to 5-year-old, Joey, that's a con 2, don't bother, Mom doesn't give. Consistency has its own rewards, let me tell you. Well, she comes running in. Mom, can I go out to play? Yes, after you get your bed made. Con 1. Oh, Mom, please let me go out. I promise I'll make it before I get in it tonight. Oh, please, I'll make it twice tomorrow. Please, you got to let me go out. They're waiting for me. Beyond 3rd grade, they bring their friends. Mrs. C, we need her on the team. If they were good friends, they'd go up and help her make her bed. You know, but a con 1 is begging, bribing, weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. Kids with special needs are very good at that con. If any of you are divorced, your children will be great at it. They'll push every guilt button you have up here. Because we tend to give in to a con 1. We think, oh, what have we done to... Okay, you can go out this time. We give our kids a second chance. I don't believe in second chances. Second opportunities, yes, but not a second chance, and there is a big difference. A second chance is to say to the kid, okay, go out this time, but tomorrow you get it made. The kid never has to experience the consequences for their own irresponsibility. But a second opportunity, there are 4 things we must give our kids to be responsible. 1, we need to give them responsibilities. 2, we need to give them consequences. 3, we need to hope they blow it, and don't worry, they will sometime. And 4, we need to give them a second opportunity to try the first responsibility over again after they've experienced the consequence for blowing it the first time. But growth comes from experiencing the consequence for blowing it, the pain that comes with, I gotta go up, be late for soccer, make the bet. Second opportunities are growthful to kids. Second chances are not. When we give in to a con 1, it affects your kid's ego. What you're saying to that kid is, I don't believe in you. I don't trust in you. You're not big enough to handle the consequences that we've laid out for you. I'll take care of you. That's what you say when you say, go on out this time, but next time make your bed. Don't give your kids a second chance. Give them a second opportunity. Hey, but as a parent and a teacher, I know that it's hard not to give in to a kid in a con 1 around 3 groups of people. If you can get consistent around these 3 groups, you will have it made. 1 is the general public. When you're at restaurants, grocery stores, field trips, churches, down Main Street, and the kid's going, please, we tend to give in. The second group is for teachers, when the principal's in observing. We tend to give in. The kid's going, please, we give in. The third group is the hardest. If you can get consistent around this group, you will have it made. In-laws. Grandma says, oh, let her have a hunk of chocolate cake. And we got to say, Maria, we got to say, Graham, I got to respect Maria's right to choose not to eat that cake. And Maria's going, huh? But we have a little guideline at our house on holidays, because that's the only time we serve gooey desserts. The rest of the time it's fruit, and it's right on their plate, and I don't care when they eat it. But on holidays, we say to the kids, if you eat what's on your plate and you still have room, you're welcome to have dessert if you want it. We don't bribe them. If you eat 5 carrots, you can have this luscious cake. No. We just say, if you eat what's on your plate, you still have room. Well, obviously, if she can't eat what's on her plate, she doesn't have room. Oh, but she's in a con 1. She says, but Mom, the food part's full, the dessert part's empty. That is a con 1. Don't give in to that. How do you avoid giving in to a con 1? You be assertive. And I don't mean that aggressive assertiveness where you attend an assertiveness workshop and aggress all over everybody because you have a right. No, that's not true assertion. True assertion is the ability to recognize your needs, wants, and rights for what they truly are, and the needs, wants, and rights of your children in relationship to the whole, because we need as parents to see the whole. And so how do you be assertive? You say to your kid, you may go out as soon as you get your bed made. You just keep saying what you initially started with. If a con 1 doesn't work, kids are going to try a con 2. They don't necessarily do it in this order, but it's a fairly typical order. Con 2. You mean, oh, Mother, nobody else has to make their bed in the block. It's not fair. How come Maria didn't make hers this morning? And Joey's got his pillow in the middle. That's not called made. I hate you. This is dumb. And if you're divorced or a step-parent, you'll really recognize this one. You're not my real father. Wait till I go to my mother's this week. And you could just go... Now, the problem with con 1 is we give in. The problem with con 2 is we hook in and we get angry back. Don't you talk to your mother like that. And we're angry back again. But you need to understand that aggression begets aggression. They get angry, you get angry, they get angry, you get angry. You have to explain to the child abuse team why you run your kid's neck about making the bed. It's awful. You lose your cool. No. Con 1 affects the kid's ego. Con 2 affects our heart. We get angry. Don't you talk to your mother like that. And then a secondary payoff. Your other little kid comes up and says, Mom, would you tie my shoe? Tie it yourself. And then our spouse comes home and we say, I don't know what I'm going to do with these kids. You have the coronary, they get the new mother. It is not fair. It's not fair at all, folks. Don't give in or hook into a con 2. No. Another problem is we argue in a con 2. I don't care what any other parent in the block says. In this house, you're going to make your bed. Maria didn't make hers because she got sick. Joey puts his pillow in the middle of the bed because he's little and he doesn't need it at the top of the bed and he sleeps in the middle. And you go on and on. Well, my own rule for arguing is I refuse to argue with anyone over 2.5. Their language skills are too well developed, and I'll lose. Remember that the next time you go to argue with a 9th grader, you're going to lose. They're over 2.5. I know a parent of a teenager who argued with her daughter trying to convince her she loved her. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Yes, I do, but you don't do, but I do. No, you'll lose. So don't argue. Don't hook into a con 2. What you need to remember is aggression begets aggression. Passivity invites it, so don't be a passive parent. Don't go, oh, don't talk to your mother that way. Because aggressive people attack passive people. But the beauty of assertion is that it dissipates aggression even if the other person doesn't want it. If we as parents can remember that, how much better we'll feel. Have you ever in anger said something you wished you hadn't said? Sure. Well, kids, it's the same thing. When their adrenaline gets up, it shuts off the thinking portion of their brain. And they cannot be reasoned with. And if you accelerate that aggression, they'll say things and you'll say things you wished you'd never said. So don't accelerate it. But assertion will dissipate. You say, how am I going to be assertive? It is hard as a parent to be assertive. But the payoff is so great. The kids yelling and screaming at you, I hate you, this is dumb, this is stupid. You'd like to wring their neck. Instead of wringing their neck, come back assertively and say, you may go out as soon as you get your bed made. You just say the same line over again. It is hard. What if your kid runs? Some kids will run. I treat them two different ways. One when I can catch them and one when I can't. The little ones I will run after. The very young. They run out of anger. They're upset. Their adrenaline's up because it's life-threatening if we let them run outside. They could run in front of traffic and get hurt. They could do something to hurt themselves. So when a little one says, I hate you, and starts running, I grab them. But I grab them not by the shoulder and shake them, but in a great big bear hug. And I start rocking them, and I sing to them. You say, lady, are you crazy? No. You grab them in a hug because they need it. They're upset, and you rock them, and you say, kid, it's going to be all right. Why do you sing? Music comes out of the right side of the brain, as does most strong emotion. It'll keep your adrenaline down and help reduce theirs. And you're singing, and they're calming down, and you can rub the top of their head if you want, or if they're on the floor throwing a temper tantrum, rub their backs and say, kid, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. And then when they're all calmed down, you turn them around and you say, you may go out as soon as you get your bed made. You always go back. Now, what if the kid's bigger? You need to understand you don't grab your kid, you don't chase him down the street and catch him in front of his peers. Wait till I catch you, wait till I catch you. No. Because you can't use that when they're 16. And you want to start using tools when they're young that you can continue to use. When they get older, you'll lose it. If you control them young, you'll lose them later. But you want to have positive power. So as your angry 9-year-old's running out the door, you say to them, when you've cooled off, come on back. Give them permission to come back. Don't you say, don't you just wait until you get back in here. They'll never come back that way. You say, when you've cooled off, come on back. Give them an opportunity to come back and a second chance at that, a second opportunity. Now, it'll be hard for the kid to stay out. There'll be guilt there. When they come back in the door, they'll probably be a little sheepish. They're wondering what's going to happen. When they walk back in the door, I give them a great big hug, and I say, you know, sometimes we feel like we need to run when we're upset and can't handle a situation. There are other ways to handle it, and sometime you and I will talk about that, but not now. I give them a great big hug, turn them around and say, you may go out as soon as you get your bedmate. Far better that way than yelling and screaming, regretting what you've said or what you've done, and having to make up. Now, you're going to make mistakes. I am not a perfect parent. Guess where I get a lot of these examples? You're not a perfect parent. You're going to blow it sometimes. You're going to say things I'll break your arm if you do that again. You can always call it back and say, kid, I won't really break your arm, but give me 5 minutes to cool off and 5 minutes to think of what I will do, and I'll let you know. You can do that. You might threaten them and say, you'll never go skiing with us again, ever, ever, ever. You know that's not true. After you've said it, you can say, give me 5. You know I'm not going to mean that. Give me 5 to come up with something I will mean. And then say it. You can call back mistakes. And if you make a mistake, give your kid a hug. If you lose it, give them a hug and say, I lost it. In fact, if you look at the behavior that's aggressive toward your children, it has very little to do with what the kid did, but your own state of mind, your mental health and your physical health. How much sleep have you had? How frazzled are you? How rushed are you? So take time, be silent more often, and slow down your pace with your kids. Well, if a con 2 doesn't work, kids are going to go to a con 3. But there are 3 groups of kids that often omit con 1 and 2 and go directly to 3. They're the kids who are in the age of rebellion. Kids rebel at 3 ages, at 2 against their mother, at 5 against their mom and dad, and at puberty against the entire older generation of which you and I happen to be a member. Bless the mother and father who has a 2-year-old, 5-year-old, and kid in puberty, and you wondered why you were going crazy. Now you know why. They're all rebelling. But many kids in those 3 ages omit con 1 and 2 and go directly to 3 because con 3 is the most powerful con. Con 3. Ain't gonna do it. You can't make me do it. Didn't want to go out anyway. It's starting to rain. That's a dumb old soccer game. Send me to my room. I'll listen to my stereo. Spank me. It won't hurt. And they sulk. Con 3 is the sulk. Normal healthy kids will sulk for 5 minutes. Gifted for 10. You say, ooh, we got a lot of severely gifted kids at our house. No. What you have are a lot of kids who have learned how powerful that tool is, because you cannot make any kid do something they choose not to do. But the problem with con 1 is we give in. Con 2 we hook in. But con 3 throws us into a con 1. Oh, come on, you can do it. See, Mom will help you. See, we can get this bed made. Sure, you want to go out. See, we'll do this side. We're begging, bribing, pleading, and coaxing. Check yourself. And they have us. How do you deal with the con 3? Same way you dealt with the con 1 and 2. You may go out as soon as you get your bed made. I'll sit in my room all day. You may go out as soon as you get your bed made. Don't say, I don't care if you want to sit in your room all day. Go ahead. You may go out as soon as you get your bed made. Some of those lines sound real familiar, huh? Of course they do. We are not perfect parents. Watch for the cons. You're going to slip, but now that you know what they are, you will grow, and that's the irritation in making your own pearl. Tomorrow you'll be realizing it. The next day you'll get stronger at it, and you'll continue to grow in that. What if a job is not well done? What if you walk in and there's your kid's bed? The comforter's on the top, right, but the undersheet is all crumpled up at the foot of the bed? Don't walk in there and go, do you call this a made bed, and strip it? No, 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 no. All you need to do is cool, calm, collectedly walk in there and say, I cannot accept it, you need to do it over. Huh? I can't accept it, you need, but what's wrong with it, Mom? They know, folks, they know. If you've taught them, they know. I cannot accept it, you need to do it over. I mean, they're going to get so tired of hearing this thing. It's called broken record. They get real tired of hearing it, and they finally go and make, all right, I'll make it right. And they go and get it right. Teach them first. Make it with them. Model it for them. Let them know what your standards are. Hey, if you walked into our house, you'd know which kid made the bed who was 6, which one made it who's 5, which one made it who's 8. You'd know it. Because the 8-year-old gets hers really straight, really neat. The 6-year-old's getting it real straight, a little sloppy here and there, and you know the 5-year-old's bed. It's coming, though. It's his own bed. He's learning to do it. There are lots of ways, too, by the way, to do chores. It doesn't always have to be your way. Be willing to give a little bit The house is our home, not your home and everybody's helping you out. It is our home together. Okay. Now that we've got chores done, let's move on to eating. First of all, eating should be a celebration. Mealtime should be a celebration. We should break bread with our children every single day. And it should not be an obnoxious place. So sit down, get your elbows off the table, quit chewing with your mouth open. What did you do at school? What do you mean you didn't do anything at school? Yes, you do have to eat 5 carrots. No, that's not a celebration. Sometimes people stick them in front of the boob tube and say, watch TV and eat. Nobody talks to one another. How will they ever understand breaking bread with the rest of the community if they don't break it as a family? So share that with them. At least one adult, at one meal a day, more if you can. Sit down with your children and break bread. Make it a sharing time. Another thing you need to realize about mealtime is picky eaters usually come from panicky parents. I have met a lot of kids as I've traveled throughout the world who have never seen a carrot, let alone eaten one, and they're very healthy. But we worry. No, you set up good food, you start it very young, and you don't let kids control you around food. Anorexia nervosis is the extreme in the teen years. Don't let kids wrap you around their finger with food. I have seen kids manipulate the daylights out of parents. I mean, they're playing airplane with them to get them to eat. They're bribing them. You do this, Mommy will let you have 5 more bites. You can have this piece of chocolate cake. Oh, my gosh, have they got us? No. You need to get rid of all the junk food in your house and say, oh. I said we need to buffer kids from sexual promiscuity, drug abuse, and suicide. Drug abuse, one of the finest buffers, is getting a kid to like their bodies and to know what goes in it and do healthy things for it. And you start that very young. Now, you may be a chocoholic. My husband and I are. Make a run on the 7-Eleven at midnight if you need to. But don't have it in your house for the kids. Have good food in the house for your kids. And they'll pig out once in a while when they get out in the real world, too. But you will have set up a backbone for them to learn how to eat. Another thing we've learned at mealtime is my husband and I can't talk to one another. We used to try it. Never worked. Because the kids want our attention. And we talk afterwards, but we can't talk together at the meal. We talk with our children. We don't ask them questions. We talk about ourselves, and they start wanting to talk about themselves. We model it for them. We don't say, what'd you do at school? Typical answer is nothing. We say, you know what I did today? And then when the kids say, you know what I did today? And if you can get your children to talk at a young age, when they reach the teen years, you'll be glad you did, because they'll still talk to you. They won't shut up. They'll know that it's a safe place. And mealtime can be a neat place for that. We talk to kids about these are proteins, these are carbohydrates, these are green vegetables, these are bulk food. We talk with them about that so that they begin to understand what is good nutrition. Another thing we use is a Ziploc baggie routine. I ask the kids, I say, do you want a half a sandwich or a whole? Don't ask dumb questions. What do you want for lunch? Because typically what happens when you ask that is they say spaghetti. No, you can't have spaghetti, that's for supper. Well, can we have macaroni and cheese? I'm not going to cook that. Can I have a celery sandwich? Celery's not good for you. I said, do you want a half a sandwich or a whole? I can live with that. Well, I said that to Joe one day. I said, you want a half a sandwich or a whole? He says, a whole. Now, yesterday I asked him, do you want a half or a whole? And he said a whole, and he only ate a half. I know some parents who would mini-lecture the kid and say, after they ask him, you want a half or a whole? And the kid said whole. Can't have a whole today. You only ate a half yesterday. Why'd you ask him? How would you like it if you went into the restaurant, your favorite restaurant, and ordered a big salad and they say, last week you didn't finish it. You have to order the mini this week. You wouldn't be real impressed. Treat kids like you want to be treated, with dignity and respect. And I say, oh, you want a half a sandwich or a whole? He says a whole. Who knows? He might that day eat it. He might not. I don't worry about it. I'm not going to get locked in a power struggle over food. And so he eats a half a sandwich. I just say, oh, you can only eat the half, Joey. You know what to do with the other. He goes into the drawer, pulls out a Ziploc baggie, puts the other half of the sandwich in a Ziploc baggie, puts it in the fridge. If he gets hungry before his next meal, he must eat what's in the sack before he eats anything else. That's all. The real payoff is not at lunch, it's at supper. Typically, kids are in a hurry to get back outside when it's beautiful weather like this, and they hurry through their meal, and they don't eat it all. I'm not hungry. No problem. I put it in a Ziploc baggie. They put it in a Ziploc, take it back. They put it in a Ziploc baggie. They commit. All of one plate goes in one baggie. We don't be selective. It's all one plate, one baggie. What happens in many homes, though, that don't use the Ziploc routine is 8 o'clock at night. Kid didn't eat much of a supper. 8 o'clock at night. Mom, I'm hungry. And we mini-lecture the kid and say, well, if you'd eaten your supper, you wouldn't be hungry, but you don't want to send a kid to bed hungry. I mean, you feel guilty, right? So you feed them. And they learn that I don't have to eat my supper, and all I have to do is beg Mommy, and she'll give me more food. All I say to the kid is, you hungry? Oh, you got some spinach in your Ziploc baggie. Spinach! If he's hungry, he'll eat it. If he's not, he'll eat a good breakfast. Don't worry about it. They will not starve to death in our society. What about a little kid who dawdles with their food? Don't pick at them. I just say to the kid, I'd love for you to eat with us. And they eat with us. And I say, we're going to sit here for about a half hour. And if you're finished, take your plate, scrape it off, put it in the dishwasher. If you're not finished, hon, you can eat by yourself the rest of your meal. We'll leave you alone and let you eat by yourself. We get up, clean the table. If the dishwasher started, when they're done, they have to wash their own plate. That's all. There's just a logical consequence for being slow. But it's all right to be slow. There's no punishment. I'm not out to rescue children or to punish them. I'm here to discipline them. Punishment and rescuing is imposed from without, and the adult has the control. Discipline shows kids what they've done wrong, gives them ownership of the problem, gives them ways to solve it, and leaves their dignity intact. And so we set up consequences that are logical, realistic, and palatable. Once a month, we celebrate with our children, really celebrate. We find a holiday or birthday, and usually at least once a month we can do that. And I mean, we lay out the spread. We put tablecloth down, cloth napkins, candles, music, flowers. We don't have crystal and china, so we don't put that out. We live very simply. But we do it real big, and we put the 2 forks and the 2 spoons and the salad and all that good stuff out, and we teach our kids how to deal with a formal meal. And we have a good time at a formal meal, but they learn to be comfortable with a formal meal. The rest of the time, I swear, it's like eating at McDonald's. You know, we don't get real hooked on table manners. They're learning them. We model them for them. But unless it's gross, we don't intervene. I mean, if the spaghetti ends up on the hair, then it's gross, and we do something about it. If a kid's fighting with another kid at the table, we say, hey, cool it. If you can't cool it, please leave the table till you're ready to come back and join us and celebrate a meal. Any questions on food or mealtime?
This completes this side. Do not rewind. Please stop the tape and turn it over. The program will begin momentarily.